Well, we're getting ready to roll and shoot videos, and Dylan, you kind of hardly ever know what we're filming, right? Like what we're shooting. We talk about sometimes a little bit here and there because you give ideas too, but I got some goodies back here. They're hidden in a safe place in the pool building. And there's a little box here. Remember the Kermit trail cam location?
Of course.
That's like Bo. And then even back in the day, Kermit. We literally had Kermit on that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, right there. Anyways, we had him like 2 days before I shot him there. But anyways, we didn't have the Kermit. I don't believe it was out that much last year, even if we did have it last year. We moved it out into the field on a scrape. So I really want to get the Kermit back. So that's what we're doing. We're going to talk about my favorite trail cam settings, why we usually put them on a mock scrape. We'll take you out in the woods to show you. We feel like we've had it narrowed down. We want to conserve battery. We want to get good buck pictures. We want to limit doe pictures, and we want to limit the number of pictures overall on the camera so we conserve battery and make it last all season. We expect to put batteries in our cameras, even though we run 10-second video, sometime in September and let it run the entire season. And so we're gonna take you out and show you how we all accomplish all that and set up a camera. Now, Dylan, when I say like we're gonna go put the Kermit scrape out, and we got pictures of the Kermit on there, Kermit buck bow, is that kind of like you think, man, Jeff's being a pain in the arse? Because I gotta
go. Already thinking like, how am I gonna pull? Hard drive is that on? That's a camera company that doesn't even exist anymore. That these files are on. Like, I think I can find it. This is gonna take me a while.
How many? That would have been Kermit was from 2000 or 2020.
Yeah.
How many terabytes was that ago?
Oh gosh, that's 12 terabytes ago probably. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
that's all right. I'll find it.
Sorry, not sorry. You know, because
people got to see it.
Yeah, I just, you know. You even have the old mount. This is a friend from Michigan, made these mounts a long time ago, named Chad Chrysler. Kind of a character, but kind of cool to still have these same old mounts we can still use for this, and definitely hasn't been a spot we've kept active. We should have. Just so I think I had you do this last time. Can you pull this down like... I am not. So just about any time we're setting up a camera, we're setting up a mock scrape. You can see, I mean, and I'm the type that brings, 20 feet of rope to a 1 foot party. So if you look at this right here, I mean, we used about 1 foot of paracord on this. No scent, no fancy rope. This is natural, and they'll hit this for years. You can see we just hung it right up there. I only tied it about 1 inch long, just so there's no pivot point connected to it. I don't want this connected right to that branch, because then a buck, it's stiff and they're more apt to break this. So this is perfect right here. We want it about waist high. I want the deer, when they come in, to focus on the scrape and not the camera. And then we have a stand location right up there where I shot the Kermit buck 5 years ago. So one of the reasons we have this here, they focus on this, not you in the stand location, and not the camera right there. So really good. Now, when we set this close, typically I'd put this on a tree back another 5 to 10 feet. I don't want to get false triggers here. This is facing north, so it's a good direction. We don't have sunlight coming in, but at the same time, I don't want this mock scrape to be in the center of the frame. So we'll move it off to the side a little bit. The most sensitive portion of this camera to actually pick deer movement up and pick that movement up and heat is right in the center. As you go out further, you don't get as much. And so I don't want this right in the center. I don't want the center of the focal point to be here. I might want it over here. We like a lot of times for this to be in the 1/3 portion, at the 1/3 line of the camera instead of the 50% line. I hope that makes sense. Not right in the middle, just off to the side a little bit. So I'll make sure before we leave on this, that this is setting up the way that we want it to. In fact, I'll get that going now so I can adjust it, take a look at it, make sure it's in the right direction. And I want to make sure that when we leave, it's good. Now, when I set up the camera, I really like to have video. I want to see which way the deer is coming from. For example, that deer might be coming from the bottom right here. He comes up, takes a loop, comes in. We think he's coming from this direction. He might come in from this way, come outside. I want to see where he's coming from, where he's going from, but I only want 10 seconds of it. Dylan's the one that first recommended video. That was quite a while back ago, Dylan, maybe 2016 or 17. Yep. You said, why have you never used video? And we do it because it's great B-roll for the YouTube channel and for videos, but it's taught me about buck behavior so much more. And so at the same time, we've used 20-second video, 15-second. I don't know if we've ever used 30, but I really like 10 because we don't burn as much battery. Now, the advantage of putting something like this back on a buck cruising trail area where we expect to shoot a buck, and we're literally putting where we expect to shoot a buck. This is the shooting lane going up to the stand location. So I expect them to shoot them right here, and that's why we have this scrape in that location. It's not down there, it's not up here. I want it right over the trail, so when they come through here, they have to move their head out of the way to even move. And I know that's a hard one, Dylan. I'll be happy if you just pull up Kermit footage. But the one where Kermit actually leaves a scrape and then moves his head out of the way when he walks away, we have one of those old ones. It's pretty cool. I might even have it on my phone, Dylan. So if I do, I'll put it in a Dropbox for you. But I know that's a long ways back. But that's literally what they have to do. A buck, he was a 170-inch buck. He comes in and uses this. He literally, to keep walking, has to move his head. And we see that happen with a lot of different bucks. This is treated as more sacred. We think about them coming in and being very aggressive. They're only like that for 3 or 4 weeks out of the entire year. The rest of the time, they're leaving their preorbital gland scent here. And so they rub around their eyes, they leave that scent. And you could have deer, and I've been told this by the world's most foremost deer research biologist, John Azoga, that a deer could come in here and smell a dozen other deer that have been here for the last 2 days. We can't smell a thing. So thinking about it, you're putting commercial scent on here. Commercial scent always stinks. We don't want to get on our hands or anything. In their natural world, we can't even smell what they're leaving on this. Think about that. When you're putting a commercial bottle of scent in, how much it covers up everything else. So I want that camera on video so we learn more about buck behavior, but I don't want it more than 10 seconds. We put it on hybrid so we get a picture, then we get the video on top of that. And because we're putting it back in a location like this isn't where a lot of does and fawns are frequenting. I'm not saying they don't come here, but this is parallel to the food, parallel to the field edge, and especially when those mature bucks start cruising, instead of them coming on this bottom trail and just going straight out to the food, we see them start to turn like this because they're starting to actively scent check downwind to food plots, field edge, might be a ridge line in public land that you're setting up a camera. They'll start running those ridge lines where right now they might just be going up to the ridge to browse. They're not later on when they're feeding on acorns, but when it really starts to get ruddy, they start to turn their attention and start running lengthwise, especially along features where they can scent check. And that's where we set this camera. So we put it on 10-second delay, and then we're watching the sensitivity. The sensitivity comes standard in the camera at 7. We want it set more depending on what we're seeing. If we see that we're not getting a bunch of false triggers here, awesome. If we do, we'll change that sensitivity level to 5, even down to 3. And I'll start pulling those pictures. If you're directed too much on the center, then again, you'll get more pictures. You just adjust the camera a little bit. The camera settings are critical to us. We actually use AA lithium batteries. This is an area we can't get any sunlight. Now, if we charge up a solar panel, that's almost like an extra set of batteries that we can put on here. And so in a remote area where we can't come in and check this camera, change the batteries, then that's a great opportunity to have this camera running for, especially we'd put those on pictures. So if I have a spot where I know we can't get into, we can't touch because we're going to leave scent, we might spook deer, then I might put that on picture only, and we'll expect that to last a year. But in the video mode, we expect to get 4 or 5 months. We want it to run for the entire season. That's why we use the AA lithium. I don't want it running out in November, which seems like if you have non-lithium batteries, that's what's going to happen. It runs out at that perfect time frame. So positioning of the camera, in this case, these bucks are walking right underneath. I want that camera to be above them. It's about 6 feet. We have to angle it down because this vine is close. We're pushing it off to at the 1/3 line, 30%, 25% line, and that'll still give us pictures of everything coming and going on this trail. And that's, you know, kind of our favorite setup. I like a tree that's wider than the camera, or as wide. This one's slightly wider. Again, 6 feet up to hide the camera.
Do you run a delay?
And that delay, good thing, Dylan. That's why you're here. You think of these really important things. But delay, we like running on about 3 minutes. And because we're looking at, like, if you have a buck coming through here, we'll get his picture. We're not looking for endless amounts of deer coming through here. Because it's on 3 minutes, even 5 minutes sometimes, I'd rather get a picture every 3 to 5 minutes, potentially, if deer are just hanging out here, and have that battery last a really long time. I'd rather get an example of pictures over a 5-month period than have 0 delay and have all those pictures only give me a 3-week window, because we're getting so many pictures. I've seen people do it on a bait pile, on a food plot, and they're not going to be back for 3 months. They set their camera up on a lease somewhere, or even public land in some remote area, and then they put it on 0 delay. And for one, you could have, you know, a red squirrel that lives in a hole, and he just keeps running out, chipmunks or whatever, and you just burn through a whole bunch of pictures. You just keep taking endless pictures all day long, all night long. That's the same on a bait pile or a food plot. Instead, I'd rather get a representation over a longer period of time. So again, we're running hybrid. We're running 10-second video. We're putting that on full HD, and we want high megapixel pictures too. So whatever the highest setting on, depending on the camera you have, we set that on. Our reveals, I believe they're 12 or 15, but that way in the distance, 4K. So that way in the distance, if we see a buck out 100 yards in a field edge, then we can zoom that in and see what buck that is too, and identify him. Again, we're putting our cameras too, just the last tip, in areas we expect to shoot deer in the fall. I want to set these up, and what's really interesting, you'll see a buck come through here, and you get one picture of him in August, July, and you know you have him, because he's going to be back. And a lot of times, you're getting those summer pictures on a buck that might even move somewhere else during the fall, but you get pictures of him during the summer, you get pictures of him in this location, June, July, August, 7, 8 pictures. He leaves, you know, where did Mo go? Whatever you call him. Well, Mo was living somewhere else where he likes during the fall, maybe better fall food, better fall cover, but he's told you during the summer, I'm going to be back, but it's going to be during the rut. You look at that rut timing, and I'm not talking October 20th in Michigan or Wisconsin or Minnesota. I'm talking end of October, early November, when they really start to range out after they bred 1 or 2 does back home. We'll start running around. Got about a 10-day window there. Peak rut towards the end of the rut. About 10 days. You look at the weather and you think, you know what, that weather forecast, super windy 3 of the days, super hot a couple of the other days, pounding rain, blizzard conditions, whatever it might be, those extremities of weather. But man, these 3 days right here, it's after a cold front, temperatures dropped, things are a little bit calmer. Doesn't mean that there's no wind. I actually like a little bit of wind when I'm hunting. But think about it. You come into a stand like this thinking, I'm going to shoot that buck I've only gotten 7, 8 pictures of during the summer the last 2 years. But he's told you for 2 years, you're in my wheelhouse, you have a scrape set up, you're on a cruising trail, you're on a hunting spot right in front of your stand location. You come in here expecting to shoot that deer, and he's told you for 2 years with random photos during the summer that I'm going to be back, but it's only going to be during those 3 days during the peak rut when the weather conditions are good. It's not super windy, it's not extremity weather, not extremely hot, raining, blizzard. He's going to come when the cruising conditions are good because he lives a mile away somewhere else, 3/4 of a mile away. You come in here and shoot him. Sounds like a needle in a haystack, but he's told you for 2 years, I'm going to be here, and that's why we set these cameras up during the summer like this. Those are my favorite settings, favorite setup right here. And Dylan, pretty cool to bring the Kermit scrape back. You help me set this up.
How long until a buck hits this, I should ask?
You know, it's interesting. Dylan will turn the camera over there, but you know, it's interesting. We don't see a lot of bucks on this until, I'm going to say, you want to say less than a day? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking by tomorrow night we'll have a buck hitting this, yeah.
And the one thing that concerns me that we have to take care of right away is behind Dylan here, we had 2 deadfalls come down. And so this is the cruising trail right here, and they can easily step over this. They don't like, especially bigger antlers, they're not going to crawl through there. So that forces them up there. It's full of branches. And that's why we have a good trail that's being used right down here. So we're kind of limiting what we normally do. You can see this is an X of movement right here. Trail goes up, out, goes this way. And a lot of times they're coming in through here and going up. So when this is blocked here, they're starting to move downhill. I really want to get that cleared out because that goes to a distant food plot over there. This is all bedding. We've created bedding cuttings over here. So I think that's the one thing that might push our expectations down a little bit for right now, this day, because by the end of the day, I'll have this chainsawed out. We just saw that this is in here. But anyways, Dylan, I think you did help me. And I think you actually lowered that limb so I could tie it.
You're hero, Jeffy.
In 2016 or 20. Yeah, 2020. I think you helped me do that and set this up. So we're going to get going. I'm going to check the pictures we've been getting on there as been talking, make sure that we're set up correctly. And hopefully by the time this video comes out, you'll get to see a buck coming in here. And what day it was.